Wonderful. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first webinar of 2016 with NoVeg. This week we have Introduction to V-Ray 3.3 for 3dsMax. V-Ray 3.3 for 3dsMax came out in the last days before Christmas, and the new free update brought a real present to the rendering artists with the new and drastically improved features. All in all, there are 25 new features and updates, and today's presenter, Kalina Panteleeva, will take her time to demonstrate you everything through a bunch of production-ready scenes. In fact, CG Specialist Kalina joined the Chaos Group CG team in 2012, and since then, she's been actively here's her bio. She's been actively working with V-Ray for Maya and V-Ray for 3dsMax. She has more than 8 years experience in graphic design, photography, and visual arts. Before joining Chaos Group, Kalina worked in creative for the advertising industry. And before we get going, here's an overview of what we do at NoVeg. NoVeg is one of the largest online stores for design software. We offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. No need to go around, just one-stop shop. Put us to the test and come visit our webpage at noveg.com. And for more daily software news and limited time promotions, pay a visit to the NoVeg blog and follow us on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. Coming up next week, what's new in KeyShot 6? And last but not least, I want to remind you that today's webinar is free and it's being recorded live. So if you want to rewatch this or any webinar episode in our collection, just head on over to NoVeg's YouTube or Vimeo channels. And now, without further ado, I'm going to pass the screen to Kalina and she will start our presentation. Here we go. Kalina, take it away.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Okay, everybody seeing my screen? Hope so.
Yes.
Okay, so hello for me as well. I'm Kalina from Chaos Group, and thank you very much to NoVeg for having me here. Today we'll go through the latest developments in V-Ray for 3dsMax, meaning V-Ray 3.3. Since V-Ray 3.0 for 3dsMax was out quite a while ago, we've added 2, now even 3 service packs, which you can go and download from chaosgroup.com. Even now we have V-Ray 3.0. There are 3 free editions, and an interesting thing here is that they are not only bug fixes or a small change here and there. There are many new features. And today I'll try to walk you through some of the major features in 3.3. Very exciting stuff. While for V-Ray 3.2 we mostly focused on virtual reality and such kind of devices, in V-Ray 3.3 we mostly focus on productivity, on giving you better imagery, giving you better end results, of course some speed improvements, and a few very exciting new features. Those features you noticed during my presentations, many of them are a result of collaboration between us and you guys, our customers, our clients. That's one of the reasons we take pride in the fact that we are community driven, meaning that we listen to you. So enough talking from me, let's go in 3dsMax. Okay, one of the main new additions to V-Ray 3.3 for 3dsMax is the new type of image sampler. I'm pretty sure those of you who heard about this are pretty excited, and it's really amazing stuff. Basically, this is an operation going in the background of V-Ray, so the only thing you must have in mind is that if you open a scene saved with the previous version of V-Ray, this pop-up window will show. Basically, this in the window is asking you if you like to switch to the new type of image sampler of V-Ray. I strongly suggest yes. Every new scene you make in the new version of V-Ray will be automatically created using the new type of image sampler, so you won't have any pop-ups or anything else. Like I said, this is completely automate it completely in the background, so no need for changing settings. Let's see what the new image sample is all about. You see this scene, many bottles here, making it quite the complex reflections and refraction setup. This is in order to represent as much as possible a full-blown production scene, so you see for yourself the result. I'll start by showing you a render of this scene made with the previous version of V-Ray, the V-Ray 3.2. What I'd like for you to notice is the noise patterns. You can see here that the noise is not unified. We have some oversampling in the bright areas, undersampling in the bright areas, sorry, while the dark areas are oversampled. This sometimes results to not even noise levels, resulting in loss of quality. The new image sampler fixes exactly that. Basically what it does is unifies the noise around the scene. Have in mind that 3dsMax 2016 likes to play with the locked camera. Okay. So again, the new image sampler of V-Ray 3.3 basically unifies the noise levels, meaning that you have the same noise in the dark areas and in the bright areas as well. All I know, what counts at the end the most is the result. We as artists care about the beautiful picture, and the image sampler is the thing that gives it to us. So basically, just by an optimization happening in the background of V-Ray, you have better looking images. Even at this stage of rendering, you can see that the noise is formed beautifully. It's getting quite better than the previous version. This is the progressive image sampler, so over time the image will get better and better. And the new type of image sampler, it's not a setting, so it works both for adaptive, for progressive, you name it. Even now, if I compare with the previous image, you can see the difference in the noise, especially in the depth of field in the background. So this is on by default. And again, if I leave it, the image will get better and better. But we render every day, so continue with the settings. One thing you may notice when you open the new version of V-Ray 3.3 is that many of the subdivisions will be off. Meaning that here, for example, in the material, the subdivision of the reflections is gray. I'm not allowed to touch the reflection as well. This also will concern the lights. If I go to the light and select it, you can see that the subdivision option is gray. I'm not allowed to touch it. Why is that? This is because introduction of the minimum shading rate. It's not a new parameter, but nowadays the minimum shading rate controls the subdivisions of the lights, the subdivisions of the materials. You can disable this by going to the global DMC and checking use local subdivisions. But the idea of this optimization is to give you better quality without the need to go additionally into the settings of the lights or the materials. You just get the overall control of the minimum shading rate. This will also be on by default. Of course, another easy way that has been there for a while to adjust your settings is by using the quick settings panel, which I still recommend, and it's part of my everyday workflow. Just to remind you of that one. So this is the new image sampler of V-Ray, and again, comparing to the previous version, you can see the difference in the noise patterns. This is not a speed improvement. I must stress this one out. This is basically a quality improvement. Okay. So this is the main change happening in V-Ray 3.3. One small thing as well to have in mind is that sometimes if you compare with the previous version, the image from the new version will be a bit warmer. This is because in V-Ray 3.3's core, we use sRGB, unlike the previous version, which used the CIA RGB method of calculation of color. This can be disabled by a script, but I won't go deep into that. Just don't be shocked if the images are a bit warmer in the new version. It's made to give you realistic looking images, so it's the proper way of working. Okay? And these are the main changes happening in 3.3 that affect all of your workflow. Let's go into some details and some specific features. I'll start from outside going in, and I'm using this metaphor to explain that I'll start by really cool stuff happening with large environment visualization, sun and sky systems, and so on. V-Ray with its sun comes with three main models for calculating the illumination of the sun and sky: the Pritametal, CIA Clear, and CIA Overcast. Now, with V-Ray 3.3 comes the introduction of a new type of sky model for the V-Ray sun and sky system called the Xhosa et al. What the Xhosa et al model does is basically give us not only a different approach to calculating the environment, as well as a bit more realistic blue result. Let's render this one. And you can see the image. I'm rendering to with RT so we can see the changes instantly. You can see the sky model of the Xhosa. It's a bit more bluish. It gives us great horizon. Let's go into some settings. One thing to have in mind that like Pritametal sun calculation, Xhosa also links the sun and the sky illumination together, meaning that if we change the intensity, both the intensity of the direct illumination coming from the sun and the intensity of the sky change accordingly. This is unlike CIA Clear and CIA Overcast, where you have the separated control of the direct illumination of the sun and the sky. It's pretty close to Pritametal, where just giving us different sky. Okay, so we pick up in intensity. Of course, we can always control the turbidity if we want to change the result. Of course, the turbidity controls, you can say, the dust in the sky or the haze. So by going with larger values, we have different calculation of the sky. The blue thing you saw for a moment was turbidity of 12. In my personal experience with such visualizations, I would suggest don't go with turbidity levels over 10. Okay. Another very interesting parameter of the Xhosa sky is the grand albedo option. What it does is give us the color of the horizon. So here it is quite visible, this grayish color, which can be linked to the gray color here. We have the manual control over it. So if you go reddish, for example, we have a beautiful, dreamy, red-purple horizon. Of course, the horizon depends on the position of the sun. But another way you can control it again is using the grand albedo option. This is our new type of a sky model, the Xhosa et al. But if we want to have a really beautiful outdoor visualization, there is another new feature I'm pretty excited to show you. It's one of my favorites since it gives amazing results. and it's called the V-Ray aerial perspective. You can find the V-Ray aerial perspective in the Environment and Effects tab of 3dsMax. If you go to Atmosphere, here you can pick the V-Ray aerial perspective node. What it does is, basically I like to say that it makes a horizon. It creates that kind of an effect, especially typical for the real world, where the space, the air builds up, some haze builds up, and you get the blurred view, the foggy view of the horizon. Don't be mistaken, the V-Ray environment fog is still there, and it's still a great feature, but the aerial perspective, you can say it's cheaper. It's fasterly calculated, and the results are quite efficient for such outdoor visualizations. Let's turn this one on and render. We can see that this is a heavy scene, so it takes a few moments to export. And like I said before, Max 2016 likes to play with the camera. Maybe this will help. In the meantime, you can check out the parameters of the V-Ray aerial perspective here in the Environment and Effects tab. It's very easy to control. And don't forget to turn on atmospherics. Okay, the V-Ray aerial perspective is very easy to control, just with a few parameters. The main one being the visibility range, meaning that the smaller the number, the closer to the camera the fading out of the perspective will begin. The bigger the number, the far from camera it is, the easier the haze will be. You can see it very clearly here how this creates the effect of a beautiful horizon on a sunny day. Another parameter that controls specifically the aerial perspective is the height. As the name suggests, it's how far from the ground the aerial perspective would be. The Affect Environment Trace option by default will be off. This basically means should the aerial perspective affect the sun and sky. In this case, we use it because we have a lot of sky in the view, but I strongly suggest you experiment on your scene. So you can see where the haze is for 200 meters. Let's try a quite smaller number, like 40 meters. We can save this image to our render history for future reference and render. Okay. Again, as we are trying to create as much realistic production workflow as possible, sometimes it takes some time to export. But you can very clearly see the difference in the aerial perspective and the visibility range. Since it's starting so close to the camera, we can barely see the dome here. And we cannot even talk about the mountains far from this. So you can see for yourself that the results here are amazing. And we took care of the sky model with the Xhosa. We took care of the horizon with the V-Ray aerial perspective. One thing missing from my mind are clouds. So let's add some clouds. In order to do so, and this is just an example, I'll use the V-Ray volume grid. The volume grid was part of, I think, the first service pack for 3dsMax. It's basically a very easy way for rendering volumetric OpenVDB shaders in 3dsMax or Phoenix shaders, you name it. It's a grid containing inside the file. But an interesting thing going on in here is that if you have added the V-Ray volume grid again in the environment, now you have a new option called use probabilistic sharing. What this does is giving us faster rendering time for volume grid and all kinds of volumetrics. Those of you familiar with probabilistic lights V-Ray 3.0, this does basically the same. Samples part of the information, just enough to give us the same result, but in overall faster time. I've pre-rendered this image for your convenience. Now I just want to show you this. Okay, so you can see that with probabilistic shading of volumetrics, you have 46 seconds for this scene, and without it, we have 1 minute and 26 seconds, which is almost twice the speed improvement. This, of course, I used the opportunity to make an example with clouds, since we already talked about sky. It's also working on all kinds of volumetrics like fire, smoke, you name it. Okay, and closely to speed improvements, another one is concerning, again, large outdoor visualizations, mostly, not limited to, which is the optimization of the rendering of FirstBack Pro. FirstBack Pro is a plugin used for populating with trees, with rocks. Many people use it, especially in outdoor visualizations, and this is a scene prepared with the latest version of FirstBack Pro. Just using the basic models inside the FirstBack, nothing quite challenging here besides the render time. In the new version of V-Ray, thanks to some core optimizations, you get faster rendering of FirstBack trees and FirstBack geometry. Quick comparing with the new version of V-Ray with the new version of FirstBack, we have 1 minute and 41 seconds, while in the previous version with the FirstBack Full, we have 2 minutes and 28 seconds for the exact same setup. And you can see that this is not a small setup. Okay, and this is one of the speed optimizations besides the volume shading for the probabilistic shading for volumetrics. Another one concerns one of the main V-Ray advantages and tools, the V-Ray proxies. In quick words said, you again get faster rendering of proxies. I say again because since quite a while, every version we've came up had faster and faster rendering of proxies. The first was thanks to Intel Simbree. Nowadays, thanks to some core optimizations of V-Ray, you get faster rendering of proxies. This also concerns instances. Have that in mind. And you can see for this scene that every cookie, every Christmas cookie is a proxy. Let's check out the rendering of those. Since this is quite a heavy scene, I took advantage of pre-rendering the images. And for V-Ray 3.2, this image took 15 minutes and 23 seconds. You can see it here clearly. So this is 15 minutes and 23 seconds for V-Ray 3.2, while in the new version, we have the V-Ray 3.3, we have 13 minutes and 7 seconds. More than 2 minutes optimization happening in the background, so no changing settings, no changing anything. And I think in the overall process of creating scenes and optimizing heavy geometry, this counts as much. A few additional things about proxies, which are part of previous service packs, but I always like to mention them since they're very useful. One of them that I think came with 3.1 is the automatic instancing of proxies, meaning that if you started copying some proxies and oops, you forgot to press instance, so you made 100 copies of the same proxy and you tried rendering and Max crashed, we've all been there. So in the new version, the versions above 3.1, V-Ray will automatically read from the same proxy file, automatically making them instances and giving you very fast render time. Most importantly, no crashing there. So you may haven't noticed this because it's again automatic in the background, but we are keeping you safe. Another thing about the proxies, this came with 3.2, I'm pretty sure, is the optimized preview options of the proxies. Just if you want to export to a mesh as a proxy, here you find the type code refined clustering, which basically gives you such like previews of those proxies as the ones you used in this scene, without the need of going and creating whole poly models and changing stuff. Another tool that was again part of the development since I'm on proxies, and this is very useful stuff, was the V-Ray Mesh Viewer, which is part of Chaos Group program file / Chaos Group / tools version of V-Ray tools. There you find the V-Ray Mesh Viewer. I suggest you check this one out. Okay. And I think that's pretty much about proxies. Hope you're not overwhelmed for now, and I hope you're getting as excited as possible. The things I'm missing in webinars, I cannot see if people are happy, so I strongly believe you are. Continuing with the optimizations, and one more thing about speed is concerning the rendering of light cache. Previously, light cache, of course, could be saved and pre-rendered and then used for the scene, but it could not be distributed, meaning that we could not render light cache with more than one machine. Nowadays, as V-Ray allows you to render your image very easily on many machines, as long as you have the render nodes, you can do the same thing with light cache and get distributed rendering of light cache. Okay? This is just a quick pre-recorded option, but I think the idea shines brightly. That for the exact same scene, and this is just the calculation of the light cache. Here you have no rendering. With one node, with one machine, you get 13 minutes, while with three machines correspondingly, you get around 5 minutes. So now you have the option to distribute it, light cache rendering, do it on your farm, save it to use it later, or use it at the moment, use it more than once. Especially useful for those of you with access to render farms, and just a beautiful addition to the family. Speaking of addition to the family, V-Ray has quite a few materials, and I'm very happy to introduce a new one to you. When rendering cars, such like objects, V-Ray has a few options. Of course, the blend material allowing us to combine those. But another two are the V-Ray Flex material and the V-Ray car paint material. There is a new one, and I want to demonstrate to you this one. Here we have this car, and we'll go very close so we can see the material to the door handle. And I want to introduce to you the V-Ray stochastic flakes material. Let's render. This car is carrying a very basic concept when it comes to shading cars. a blend material with the stochastic flakes material, the new one, as a base, and just a transparent V-Ray material for coat of the paint. Coat of the paint, yeah. So this is the stochastic flakes material, and you can see now the beautiful flakes being rendered. Quick note, this is not a replacement to the V-Ray car paint material or the V-Ray flakes material. This is just another option creating different types of flakes. So those are still perfectly functioning out there for you. Use whatever you like. I'll quickly go over this one. It's controlled by a few parameters. You can always check those in our help, which I'll give you a link to later. The main one, of course, will be the number of the flakes. Have in mind that this is per unit. So if you go to a very low value, this will automatically affect the car in our scene. And you can see that the flakes now even look, in the beginning of the rendering, even look like white noise because of the low value of their number. I'll go into a region. So let's go back in big ones. And another, of course, is the color. We have only one color, and let's make it something very bright for a change. Who dares to say that cars in bright purple color don't look good? I think it looks pretty amazing. Have in mind that just like the V-Ray car paint material, this one also has the mapping type option of the trip-planner mapping, meaning that you don't need UVs. You can just put in the car. It can even be a cut model coming from some other software, rendered it using the trip-planner mapping. You don't need UV mapping, which is quite time saver. You have two BRDF types called Beckman and GGX. You may say that the GGX has a longer tail, longer fall off, but again, I suggest you experiment with them. One main difference between the stochastic flakes material and the car paint material is that when the car paint material V-Ray creates its map, the map for the flakes, it's normally stored in your memory, resulting in quite the offensive memory usage. One great thing about the V-Ray stochastic flakes materials is that it's memory efficient. It does not save map in your memory. It results in less styling of the flakes, so you have beautifully balanced view all over the place using the stochastic flakes materials, the V-Ray stochastic flakes material. So go and check this one out as well. And it's not strictly used for cars. You can use it to any type of product design or spaceships, whatever your imagination provides. Okay? And continuing with the big family of V-Ray features, I'll go into a smaller node, into a smaller place of the family, being the V-Ray RT GPU. Many companies in the industry and basically the whole industry is moving towards GPUs. This is not a surprise, providing the fact that GPUs are quite a faster hardware. And nowadays, the V-Ray RT on the GPU supports somewhere around 90% of everything that it supports on the GPU. And we're adding more and more. This day, proving that fact by adding quite a few features on the GPU. Let's start with one of the main ones being the V-Ray FIR. Now you can render V-Ray FIR on the GPU. Let's just go into the RT settings as an agent type pick CUDA. This is because I'm rendering on an NVIDIA graphics card. If you are working with an AMD video card, you can go with OpenCL. When you have V-Ray, you don't need to pick CPU or GPU from the beginning. You automatically have both the options for CPU and GPU, so feel free to choose which one you want. Experiment with both. The hardware depends on your choice. So in this case, let's pick CUDA and start the magic. You can see that the V-Ray is being rendered on the GPU in real time. The V-Ray is a wonderful tool for creating carpets, grass, plush toys, you name it. So it's very easy to set up and now available in real time on the GPU. This carpet is not furry enough for my taste, meaning that it does not look cozy enough. So I'll make it cozier by hiding two more types of V-Ray fur. One will be the longer strands, creating the fluffiness of the carpet, and some side fur to make it realistically blend with the ground. Unfortunately, it's a bit lagging, but I hope you can see the beautiful and cozy carpet we have created with the V-Ray fur, and it's real time on the GPU. It's continuing to render while we speak, and I'll leave it for a few moments just to give you something new about the V-Ray fur. Just a quick note here that you now have options for curling the hair. You have a radius, you have number of curls, and you have the option to add a map. Again, go home and experiment and use the RT so you can see the change immediately. Let's continue with the additions of the GPU rendering with the support of a few additional textures and nodes.
Kalina, while we wait for a second, there's a question that just came in about the machine you're using. Is that GPU?
Okay, the machine I'm using now, it's a PC, and for the GPU I'm using NVIDIA GTX 770, I think, and an NVIDIA Tesla 40K.
Great.
K40.
I think that was the information they needed. Great.
Yes, I think so. Well, for the CPU, it's i7 Intel processor. I think that's answered the questions, but if there are any more, please write them down. Okay, and let's continue with the GPU rendering. Another texture beautifully supported on the GPU is the V-Ray multi-subtexture. Let's start rendering. Again, I'm using CUDA as my engine type. And if you're puzzled by this scene, I want to show you the setup so you get a bit of clearance. This is just a giant pile of chairs, and you're looking through their handles for an artistic kind of a visualization. You see that pretty standard office chairs creating a tunnel. So back into camera mode, and let's plug in a V-Ray multi-subtexture. Those of you who are not familiar, the V-Ray multi-subtexture is a wonderful way to give different object-specific colors or specific textures. It can work with randomization as well, but for now on the GPU it basically allows us to attach a different color to a different piece of geometry. You can see that it's quite easy to understand since the colors correspond with the colors in rendering. And the beautiful thing here is that if we change it, if we change a color, we instantly see it in the rendering. So this is a very easy way to control your scene without assigning additional different materials to every piece of geometry, and now available on the GPU. To make this setup more complex, I can even attach a multi-subtexture to the reflections and to the reflection glossiness. For the glossiness, again, it will be controlled by colors, in this case, gray ones, and white and black, of course. For the reflections, again, a multi-subtexture, and you can see the difference in the setup, difference in the reflections of the chairs, and the most obvious one, the colors. Have in mind that speaking about GPU and additional features that are now supported on the GPU, as well as the multi-subtexture, you have the V-Ray user color and the V-Ray user's color, and the V-Ray plane, which is a very easy way to create infinite planes in your scene just by one node. Okay? And I think we did a pretty good job with the colors here. You can, if you're unsatisfied, you can always go into the color corrections panel and experiment with the built-in color corrections of V-Ray. Two new things to know about the color corrections of V-Ray. And the fact that they are very useful is not a new thing. One thing that has been always in people's minds and people continue to ask for, and now I'm very happy to say is available, is that you can load color corrections from the render history. So now you can go on your render history, right click, load color corrections, and it will automatically load the color corrections of the image saved in your render history. And another thing is that now from the V-Ray frame buffer, the color corrections panel, you can save lookup tables. So now you can not only load lookup tables, you can save the lookup table of your color corrections in the frame buffer. To use it in additional software or just load it again in V-Ray. Or just save the image in the history. It will work as a memory saver as well. Okay? And continuing. We are slowly getting to the end of the presentation, so I think it's time we deserve a little treat. And what better a treat than some chocolate? So we have this piece of chocolate here, some coffee around it to those of you who like their chocolate darker. And let's render it. A very luxurious piece of chocolate you can see for yourself, but something's missing, and that's the fact that the edges here of the chocolate are very sharp, even looking cheaply sharp for such an elegant piece of a treat. What we can do in this case? We can always go and chamfer them, model, go back and forth, change some settings, add modifiers, standard approach. But an easy way of creating chamfers or beveled edges, you name it, in render time is by using the V-Ray Edges texture. The V-Ray Edges texture is not a new tool, it's been there for quite a while, but nowadays it's not only improved to give you better result, It also works between different pieces of geometry. So you can see for this, that this chocolate is not bent together. The pieces are a completely different piece from the soul of the chocolate. I can delete them, eat them at any time. So if I turn on the V-Ray edges texture, I've disabled it mainly from the bump slot. It will automatically give me beveled edges. This is happening in render time, so you don't need to go and change the geometry. You can easily interactively control it through the rounded corners option of the V-Ray edges texture. And again, now this works for separate objects. So believe me, it creates wonders when you are trying to put some steel thing together and you just don't have the time to blend in between the geometry, to connect them, or this chocolate or architectural visualizations, you name it. Just experiment and check this one out. See how easily it works with our chocolate. Just to compare with the previous version, see the difference in the rounded edges. I'll leave it to render for a second since I believe it's getting pretty close to lunchtime in the States, to make you hungry a bit. And most importantly, so you can see the beautiful result we have from the edges texture in render time. Have in mind that this is a bump effect, it's not a displacement. So if you're facing perfectly towards the edge, it will look different. But unlike the displacement, it does not need calculation. Great thing for the edges texture is that it also works with subdivided meshes, with proxy objects, so on. And this is our chocolate. But if that's not sweet enough for you, I think it's time for the real dessert. Yes, I have more sweet stuff up my sleeve. And let's get really serious with the piece of cake. Some people say that life is a piece of cake. I sincerely wish that your ear is a piece of cake as well. But for now, I have a 3D one and I will render it. So this is the RT again, so we instantly see what's going on. And our presentation is near the end. We deserve a dessert. We deserve a piece of this cake. And how are we going to do so? One way, of course, to grab a piece of this cake and take a bite of it would be by remodeling the whole piece. This will destroy all of our geometry. It would take a lot of time and the result might not be as good as we hope so. So it would be nice just to cut from it. Of course, I believe that you're all familiar, I strongly hope so, with the V-Ray clipper. The V-Ray clipper is a wonderful way of cutting through geometry. And we can create one of those from Create Panel, V-Ray, V-Ray Clipper. Just drag the clipper on someplace and it will automatically cut through our geometry in render time. Okay, but it's cutting through everything here. This does not look like a realistic piece of a cake. Of course, we can position it. The clipper has an exclude list. So you can go and exclude some geometry so it's not cutting through everything. Again, additional. But everybody who saw the clipper asked for one thing. Does it have to be only a plane? It just, now the clipper can be any type of geometry you want. So I'll just hide my prepared geometry. Okay. And this is this sort of a blobby kind of a mesh thing, you can see. Here from the cut, it was basically made by creating a box and adding many types of noise modifiers from Max, nothing special. Okay, so I'll select my clipper, go to mesh mode on, pick mesh, and just click on the blobby thing. And you see that in render time, without any change to geometry, the clipper is cutting using the form of the mesh. Of course, you can move it around, rotate it. It's not necessarily this mesh. It can be any type of even a sphere, you name it, anything you've modeled. One thing that comes in an issue in this scenario is the fact that here we still see the yellow material by default with the clipper. You can, of course, create a material and assign it to the clipper. A colleague of mine spent a day or so creating that material. But that is the difficult approach, and it's an approach you need really specific details in the cut. Another thing to ease your life you can do is go use object material in the clipper settings. Oh no, somebody took a piece of our cake. I can leave it to render for quite a while. You can see that this is quite a complex scene, having subsurface scattering in the glaze, very refractive surfaces, or I can just show you the pre-rendered high-quality image of the same scene. And I hope this makes you hungry for lunch and also hungry for information. I think now is a good time to check out your questions. But before we start with that, just a second, I want to turn your attention to docscalesgroup.com, where you can find our full-blown help index. It already has information for V-Ray 3.3, so check this one out if you have additional questions, or go to our YouTube page, Chaos Group TV, where you find some new information, some overall videos, and very interesting and inspiring stuff as well. So, Barbara, I give the microphone to you for some questions.
Oh, Kalina, what a treat. And I'm not just talking about the dessert. What a great demo with all the new features. Wow, I even gained 5 pounds during this webinar. Thank you.
Sorry for that.
Somebody just asked a question about the lighting. Is there special lighting for V-Ray in 3dsMax?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So Adnan, if you want to rephrase the question, we're here. You need to be a little more specific. In the meantime, I will ask a question about aerial perspectives. Aerial perspective is the same like V-Ray fog? What is the difference? Is it just speed, or is the same thing, or there's a difference?
No, basically the effect is different from the fog. The aerial perspective is not affected by lights, meaning that you cannot do volumetric lights, like God rays and such are not will not work with the aerial perspective. But it's faster to calculate than the fog. The fog has more control when it comes to colors. The aerial perspective is just a different approach. It creates a different effect. And again, it's cheaper when it comes to resources. It creates the horizon-like effect. While with V-Ray fog, you can even put it in a gizmo. You can create even artificial subsurface scattering while using the volume material. So it's a different thing. Mainly, you get the difference, you feel the difference when you experiment with it and when you compare the fog and the aerial perspective. Both are still there. You can use both.
Okay, you just have to try it for yourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah. has Chaos Group ever considered a package for all their plugins? Because somebody says, well, I like to use it a little bit for Max, but also I like to use it in Revit. So I don't know if this is a very technical question. It's more for marketing or, but have you guys ever
Yeah.
thought about it?
This is a thank you for saying that this is not my specialty. V-Ray for Revit is, I'm very happy that people know about it. It's out there now.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there are options if somebody wants to purchase both. There are options. You can go to sales@chaosgroup.com or through your site and just ask about it. Our sales team is amazing. They will come up with an idea to help you and give you the best solution for your needs.
Yeah, just give us a call. You can also call Noveg and, we can talk about it.
Yeah,
But, but,
exactly.
but a package
Exactly.
with all the plugins is not in the future, probably. But
I don't know. Maybe if
maybe,
maybe people wanted to do it, I don't know.
yeah, maybe this is an idea. And there you go.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes. And I think somebody's asking, can you show me the render settings? The same person that
For
was
which
asking
scene?
about the lights.
For which scene the render
This one,
settings?
the desserts, I think the cake.
Okay.
Because that's
This one I was rendering with V-Ray RT. The one I showed you was RT,
mm-hmm.
meaning that it's a real-time engine, it's interactive. So you don't need to set many settings. You just need to change the settings for the ray bundle size and the rays per pixel. This is basically for the interactivity of the render, and the main idea of the RT is that over time it will get better and better. So you don't need to go into any settings. But additional thing for changing settings, since they're very much to a specific scene, I cannot give you the perfect settings for everything, is using the very quick settings where just by sliding you control 95% of V-Ray render settings, and you can very easily adjust the quality.
Now a
For the
question.
lighting,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were
I was
done.
just going to say that I was just going to say for the lighting, because we don't have the clear version of this question. One thing you can check if you haven't is the V-Ray light list. This little wonderful tool has inside the information for all the lights in the scene, all of their main settings like multiplier, temperature, color, so on, and it's a great way for accessing the light of your scene, the lighting. I don't know if that helps, hope so.
Okay, cool. How did you do the chocolate layers in the cake? Is this V-Ray displacement, and is talking about the particles of the chocolate cake?
Okay, this is a V-Ray proxy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So there was the original piece of the cake, which was modeled, I think it was in ZBrush. Or Mudbox, I'm not sure exactly what my colleague used, and now it was exported inside as a V-Ray proxy. We use the proxy in order to have the beautiful detailed geometry in render time, while we have very easy geometry to move around, scale, and so on in the viewport.
Yeah, well, sounds like a great idea. That is the feedback. So good. And that was yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the last question, Kalina. So I will have to take the screen back.
Please
Um,
do.
I hate to, take this cake off the screen, but
I just want to say thank you
yes,
to everybody. Thank you again for having me, and I hope it was interesting and it got the
you,
people excited, got you excited.
yeah, you were great.
I'm hopeful.
You were
Thank you
great.
very much.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody also for attending from the Novage team. And if you missed something, you can always go on our YouTube and Vimeo channels. The recording will be uploaded as early as today. And in our next webinar, What's New in Keyshot 6. And to rewatch today's webinar, as I said, you can go on YouTube and Vimeo. And also follow us on Facebook, Google Plus, or Twitter for news on newest release or any other kind of software news and special. If you want to get your hands on V-Ray 3.3 for 3dsMax or all the other V-Ray product line, come on over and visit Noveg. Novage is the best way to buy design software online. Thanks again for joining us, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Kalina. Goodbye, everybody. To the next
Thank
webinar.
you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.